Hey folks, John with Complete Technology Solutions, your friend in the computer business. Now today I've got a couple things for you. I've got a product I want to review, and then I want to let you know about a new project that we're going to be doing. This project's actually going to take place over the next week or so, so I'm going to kind of lay it out for you now, and then we'll actually do the build part on the next video. First of all, the product we want to review. Now, we've all seen those Facebook scrolls, right? Where they're scrolling down the greatest new product in the world, and this is fantastic. And I decided I'm going to put a couple of these to the test. So, given the fact that I've been doing a lot of soldering with some of the projects I've been working on with the new Atomic Pies, they ran this device across my Facebook feed. Now, by the way, you'll notice that we've got old Stumpy hooked up here. It's just because the new Stumpy, which is wonderful for the videos, has got a fixed focus, so I can't get really in close. So you'll understand why when we start to preview this. But I'm going to see if I can give Stumpy a look at this here real quick. We'll zoom her out. And what we've got here is what they call they call it an automatic solder gun. So basically, essentially what's supposed to happen is the solder fits onto that little spool which clips to the back of the solder gun. And then in theory, you squeeze the trigger, solder comes out, and you get a solder connection. Problem with using one of these devices is, based on how the solder feeds through here, without even installing anything yet, without putting the solder in, without even heating it up, the first thing I notice is that it's going to make contact with the actual solder point before it hits the contact. Here's the problem with that. There's a lot of people out there that are familiar with soldering. It's going to create what's called a cold joint solder. Whenever you do that, it means that essentially you're heating up the solder and not the point that you're soldering to. That can actually cause a really bad connection. If you don't have an immediate failure, if you actually have any kind of binding to the surface you're soldering to, it can eventually fail if it's moved it around at all. And sometimes just right off the bat, you'll get a bad solder. That's the first thing I notice about this. Now, we may be able to do that by actually using the tip to heat up the end before squeezing the solder out, but we're going to have to see how that goes. The other thing that really kind of caught me on this thing is that it is only a 60 watt, which means that this thing, if we're lucky, is going to heat up to 450 degrees, which means you're going to have to use some low temperature solder. So here's what we're going to do. Now, you'll notice I've got Stumpy pointed at a really old modem down here. Basically, what I want to do is, since I don't really want to destroy anything of any pressing value, we've got a couple of solder points on this old modem. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to melt the solder first using the tip of this to see if it will indeed melt the solder. And then we're going to go ahead and try to just solder a regular old jumper onto it and see how it holds. Now, we're not looking for pretty here. We're just looking to see if it'll melt it, if the contact will hold, and if the connection will be decent. So we're going to take this out of here and heat up this solder gun. No promises on how long that's going to take, so we'll be right back with you. Alright guys, so here's what it looks like assembled. As you can see, it's got the spool on the back. It feeds into this little inlet down here, and you can actually hear the ratcheting connection. The solder is coming right out of that tip, and I'm going to see if Stumpy can pick that up. So when you click it, it actually ratchets out the solder. Okay. I'm going to tell you, part of me hopes it works because it feels kind of cool, and when you ratchet it, you can watch the solder go out. You do not want to pull it all the way because it just fires out like an inch of solder. Part of me hopes it works. We're going to see, though. It's cheap. It's, incidentally, I was reminded a minute ago I didn't tell you how much this cost. On the feed when it came across, this was $20. So I figured for $20, may as well give it a shot. Let's see what it actually does. So now I'm going to go ahead and warm it up, and I'm going to time this from the time I start warming it up until the time it's ready, and then shot. So, all right, folks. So we got her plugged in, and it's warming up, and hopefully Stumpy can see this. It's got a beautiful smoke coming out of it. Now, I know that the smoke on this thing is just this thing. It's the first time it's heating up, so it's burning off all the crap that was on it. However, it's a little disconcerting. So we're going to let this smoke for a little while longer. It does appear to have heated up pretty quickly, though, which might also explain some of the smoke on the first time it shipped. So, all right. Let's see if we're hot enough to actually melt one of these solder connections yet. Not quite. Alright, so let's give this a couple more minutes. We'll be right back with you. Alright folks, back with you. So, hopefully the camera is picking up. It is still smoking here. You can actually see that it is starting to discolor here, indicating the heat. It looks like it is actually hot enough to solder, so let's go ahead and see if it will melt that connection. And I'm going to try to make sure Stumpy gets it, and it does indeed. So let's go ahead and we're going to tin this little piece right here. Alright, so that's tinned. We're going to melt this down. I'm actually going to do this sideways, which is not the way I want to do it, but it's kind of hard to shoot and solder. So, and strangely enough, guys, that worked. All right, here we go. We're going to try it again. We're going to click out a little bit of the solder, get it just right to the tip. I'm going to melt down this piece right here. You know, very rarely am I surprised. It's actually working, and it looks like it is creating extremely solid solders. But you know what? Let's do another one, just to make absolutely sure that wasn't some kind of a fluke on those. Let's solder over here to these points over here, see what we can do. All right, let's make sure Stumpy's actually getting a picture of this over here. All right, we'll go to one of these two solder points. I'm going to warm it up. First, let's tin this one. Use a little of the solder that's on here. And hopefully Stumpy is catching that. It is actually tinning nicely. Alright. And warm up this edge here. And let's put it, there we go. Alright, we're going to do the same thing with this end. We're going to squeeze it. We're going to tin this one. Incidentally, for anybody wondering, I did flux this just before we started with just a little bit of flux. Alright, going to warm this up. And it is melting that solder nicely. Alright, there it is. So, as Stumpy can see, we actually got two very solid solder connections. Got one there, and we got one there. Wow. Alright. So, the trick to using it, and as you can see, and I'm going to take Stumpy here and show him, when you're done tinning an object, as you can see, the solder is close to the tip but not quite touching it. I think it's actually designed that way. So what happens is when you squeeze it, it'll actually just touch, and as you can see, it touches the solder, and then it melts back again. Amazing design. I'm actually pretty impressed with this thing. We'll have to check for longevity and durability. We'll use this on some projects in the future and just see how it holds up. But for right now, I got to say, big thumbs up. Great product. Surprise, surprise. Alright, so let me get this cooled down. I'm going to come back and talk to you about the project we're going to be doing next. Hang tight. I'm going to clean up the desk. Alright guys, back with you. Hey, kudos to the solder gun. While we were off camera, I went ahead and played with a couple more solders just to see if I could do some double ups. It doubled up perfectly. It did great solders. I tested continuity on these wires. No problem at all. So, once again, thumbs up. Cheap product. Surprises me. We'll see how long it lasts. It's over here cooling down. Now, I will tell you, the only thing it does not come with is a stand to cool it down. So you can see I actually have it on my little helping hands guy over here, and he's holding it up till it cools down. But you will need to get a stand for it. But no problem. All right, so next project. So I had so much fun making. Oh, by the way, I got to tell you this. This VIC 20 and that I added the raspberry into. You guys saw that on the last videos. I have dubbed this the Vicberry. So I had so much fun doing the Vicberry that I thought, let's go ahead and do another raspberry project, something that I've eyeballed for quite a while and I've wanted to do, but I haven't quite got around to it yet. So let's see how long this takes you guys to guess what we're going to do. All right? So we're going to start with a raspberry, of course. D3 Plus, nothing special. Same one that I always use. And we're going to need all the accoutrement for the raspberry. So we got the power cable. We're going to need the HDMI cable. All right, so here's where it starts to get interesting. Next, we're going to need a monitor. Now, that's not that interesting, right? Because as we all know, raspberries plug into monitors, so you can use them for gaming or whatever you want to. But that's not the end. The next thing we're going to need is an off-the-shelf picture frame. Wait for it. No theater presentation. We're actually going to be removing this picture and using this frame with this monitor. But what, you ask? What could we possibly be doing with all of this cool stuff? Well, the last piece of this is an acrylic one-way see-through mirror. We are going to build a magic mirror. Now, for those of you who do not know what that is, essentially the monitor is going to be behind the glass. You won't be able to see the monitor. You'll be able to see a reflection just like you were looking at a regular mirror. However, we will be running a version of an operating system called Raspbian on this. What you're going to have is actually a mirror, but not just any mirror. You'll be able to look at yourself in it and you'll see a clean reflection like any other mirror. But this mirror is actually also going to have local news scrolling by, daily weather reports, and any other pertinent information we choose to put on it. This is a very cool thing. If you've never seen a magic mirror, you're going to like it. So, stay tuned for part 2. We're going to come back and build this magic mirror live. And we're going to have a lot of fun with it. I guarantee this is going to be something that you're going to like. Not a lot of people have one of these, so we may end up selling this or giving it away to somebody in the audience there, so we'll see what happens. Thank you so much for joining us. Once again, thumbs up on the soldering iron, blows my mind. Nice, cool magic mirror coming your direction. Hopefully we'll have that video up in the next couple of days. Thanks again for joining us, and have a great night. I cannot wait to see you back.